Hello lovies, happy Sunday to you. So I'm just going to quickly explain what I'm doing here really quick. So today I wanted to work with my Marabu art crayons, just kind of play and have fun with those, and I will kind of explain a little bit about how I like to use them. And then I've got some vintage papers here that are part of collage packs, most of them anyway. And then I just got this new book from Vintage Office and Paper Shop. This just makes my heart happy. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to have a page, one of these pages, I haven't decided yet, one of these will be free in the resource library, and then I don't know that I'll have this ready as a collage pack by the time you see this video, but I'll try. Not every single page in the book, but some of my favorites. So what I'm going to do today is just kind of experiment and play with my Marabu crayons. But this is going to be more like watercolor for the background. And so normally when I'm putting my papers down, I really don't think about where they're going to be or anything like that, because most of the time it's completely covered up. This time, because the background is going to show through, I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate about how I place my papers. And I will also go into a little bit more detail in just a bit about how I like to use my Marabu crayons. But I wanted to just, and then after that I don't really know what's going to happen, because once you dive in, everything always changes usually. Things you get an idea and you're like, oh, I like that, so you go with it, and that's always the best way to create. So that's kind of my thought process to start, and then we'll see where it goes. Okay, so with the Marabu crayons, they're a lot like gelatos, and I'm sure you guys have used these, but I just wanted to let you know that a lot of times people don't get the same results when they're trying to recreate something that I do. And one of the things I want to make sure that you understand is that, let me grab really quick. Okay, so most every time that I'm creating, I've already put papers down and I've put matte medium over the top. And matte medium changes the porousness of the surface. So a lot of times, this is just a regular piece of paper. A lot of times people will come along and try to use the material, whether it be paint or watercolor sticks or Marabu, and then they don't get the same results. So this is non-gesso, just a regular plain piece of paper, and you can see how it's not dissolving as well. That's because this is very porous. So this has been gessoed, and so it becomes a non-porous surface. And you can see that it dissolves much better because it's not immediately going into the paper. So you can see how I've got that crayon mark, and this it completely dissolves. My paintbrush is really dirty, so I just wanted to make sure that you are aware that the surface plays a huge part in how all of your mediums and materials work. And I'm always usually working on a prepped, primed surface that has papers down, matte medium, gesso, something like that. So it makes a big difference. The other thing is, a lot of times, especially with the water media type of crayons or Inktense pencils or anything like that, I typically, if I want a specific design or that line, because a lot of times that line will show up underneath depending on how dark you do your lines and things like that. A lot of times I like to come over to my palette and put my color down and mix it up and then apply it. because I have a little bit more control as to the color. So you can see that I have this is a little bit lighter over here, so I can control it a little bit better. The other way I like to use these is sometimes I'll just dab it right onto the crayon, and it does basically the same thing as my palette. It's a little bit lighter, and it's harder on your materials because you're wetting it and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to show you the options as far as using this type of medium, and it works the same way with, say, gelatos or Inktense pencils or whatever. I have these same options. Okay, I think that is all for now. she is, lovies. Oh, I just love the colors of the flowers. The Marabu crayons just mixed so beautifully together, and oh, I just love, love, love it. I love the softness, and yet I love the unexpected of the paper coming through, which is exactly what I wanted, so I love that. And so I explained a little bit about the Marabu crayons, and then I switched to my Inktense pencil, which is much different than my charcoal pencil because it's like a watercolor, but when it dries it's permanent. And these are a lot of fun. You could use Inktense in the replace of Marabu crayons if you wanted to, and get the same effect. But I wanted some shading around everything, but I wanted it to be super subtle, and so that's when I switched to my Inktense pencil. I used, let's see, so I did a bunch of vintage papers in the background, put it all down with matte medium, and then I used this pen here, which is a Pilot multi-ball pen. It's not permanent, but it glides over all of the different mediums so well that I have been using that quite a bit. Every now and again you kind of have to, scratch it out to get it going again, but it works really well. You just have to make sure that you use a fixative and then seal it. Which I was going to have to do anyway because these dry pretty permanent though. I mean, they don't move around too much, but not completely, not like the Inktense. And let's see, what else? I used my fine liners for some dots and little bits here and there. I used my gel pen for just some highlighting. Whenever I put white somewhere, I'm trying to brighten the piece up, and I'm trying to draw the eye around the piece. So like this caterpillar is crucial to me for this piece. It's about change, and so I wanted to put some dots there. So I used my gel pen because I wanted them to be super soft and subtle and tiny, tiny little lines, and same with the lettering. And then once I got all of that done, I really wanted the butterflies to stand out a little bit more. So I went to my charcoal pencil, which is, a favorite. These are all vintage wallpapers down here. So all of this stuff is available in collage packs in the shop. These butterflies, which I showed you at the beginning, this book makes my heart happy. And so I will have a free page in the resource library, one of these pages that has the black and white butterflies. And the reason I did them black and white is because I wanted them to stand out. I wanted them to be different than the background. Originally I was going to put some color on them, and I think it would have blended in too much, so I really wanted these things to represent the change, the caterpillar morphing into the butterfly kind of thing. So that's about it. It's simple and easy, but I love the color. I love the watery feel of it, and all that paper showing through. It just makes me happy. So this says embrace change. And I have a quote on one of my many blackboards. I have all kinds of, messages to myself everywhere. You can only imagine. But one of my blackboards has this quote. It says, "Great things never come from comfort zones." And my friends, that is true in every single area of life. Work, relationships, creativity. We have to be willing to take the risk. And sometimes change happens for us when we're not expecting it. And when we're just going along and all of a sudden things change, however that is, relationships, work, business, everything. Sometimes it happens all at once, and it can be really super scary and challenging and yucky and all of the words that I could possibly think of that would go along with change. And for me, my personality type, I like routine. My husband is completely, he's very spur of the moment, and no routine for him is better. But for me, I drive the same way everywhere. I order the same things. That's just, it's funny. So change for me can really, that's a lot of times where my anxiety comes from and all that kind of stuff. But over the years, I've learned that I can choose to embrace it, or I can choose to resist it. And when I resist and I try to control and I try to hold on to the things that I think are what I'm supposed to be doing, that's when my anxiety kicks in and things don't go smoothly, and it just, and it's really hard. Let me just say this. So this isn't just like, oh, I'm going to embrace the change. It's an act of practice to go through change. And I've had it where everything changed all at once. A relationship ended. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost my job, all at the same time. And so it can be overwhelming. And I 100% understand that. And that's the time when you regroup, you talk to a therapist, or you talk to a friend, and you just kind of take a breather, and then you make a plan. Then you embrace the change. Then you say, all right, what am I going to learn from this? Where am I going to go from here? How can I get through this? How can I make it better? What do I need to do? All of those things we can say and work through it, no matter what kind of change that we're going through. Sometimes change is good. Sometimes, and I'm doing this because I'm in a transition period right now with the business. The business has grown so much over the last year and a half, that everything is changing. I used to be able to run a sale and get the sale items out, and it was just me. And now, I run a sale like we did birthday week. I'm just now finally getting all of the orders out, with me and 2 other people, and my husband working out overtime trying to get stuff together. So shifting and changing how I do things and how I approach my business is all very different now, and it's great. I mean, I'm not complaining. It's great. And yet it's still change, and I still need to embrace it. I need to figure out how things are going to work and how things are going to be different, and how I need to be different and think about things differently. So, and that happens in relationships and all kinds of areas of our lives. And sometimes the changes aren't good, like when a relationship ends or something like that, or a job ends. Financial situations happen. It can be overwhelming. But if we can take a moment to gather our tribe and our troop around us to encourage us and embolden us and help us along the way, if we embrace that and really sit down and take a look at how we can be different and how we can walk through the change, whatever it is, with grace and love and mercy. Not always, and let me just say that I don't do that very often. I don't do that initially, that grace and love and mercy. Initially I'm like, what the heck? But then I take a breather and I regroup, and then I can. So make sure you take the time if you're encountering change, shift, all of those kinds of things in your life. And really, it always happens, right? The only thing that's constant is change. So it's always happening. And if we're growing and we're learning, we're always going to be changing. But be sure to take that time to, okay, wrap your mind around what's happening, make your list, do your work, so that you can get through your change, whatever it is, and come out having learned, and to be better and being bolder and stronger. That's the thing. Change makes us stronger. Going through it over and over again, when something happens, then after you've gone through it a few times, you're like, yeah, all right, bring it on. So anyway, my friends, wherever you are on your journey, if you are facing change, just take a moment to really grasp what's happening, and then make your plan and be bold, and don't sit in your comfort zone and resist it, but move forward and learn and grow and come out on the other side better and stronger and bolder and all of those things. It will happen. I promise. I promise. I promise. All right, loves. Have a wonderful Sunday. Get some rest. Embrace your change. And always, always know that you are loved.